Happy May, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel. I am joined by my good friend, Mr. Cowboys and hockey know-it-all, Nick Harris. Nick, it's good to see you. How have you been?
Been fantastic. Just landed off vacation about an hour and a half ago, and today's the start of OTAs here in Frisco, so hopping right back into it. I'm excited.
Well, that sounds really sincere. I'm excited. What would you do for vacation?
Went to Miami. It was my girlfriend's birthday this last weekend, so got a few friends together, had a good time, and got away for a little bit.
Did you kill it on South Beach?
No, not really. I'm more of a Fort Lauderdale guy. Stay out of the crowds. I'm not a big crowds guy, but I'll still enjoy the beach though, for sure.
So when you go to the beach, are you confident enough to take off the shirt, or are you one of those guys that's I like to wear a shirt because I don't want those rays?
Take off the shirt. Well, let's see the fupa at all. Let's do it.
I'm kind of there. The problem now is I'm at the age where I'm like, I really don't want skin cancer. Like I really don't want a tan.
That's fair.
Like legitimately, I don't. But I'm also self-conscious. There's this part of me that wants to make people uncomfortable. Like if I could find a Speedo, I probably would do it now just to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Probably my own family the most. All right, lots to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime because the Cowboys have been very busy. So has the NFL in the last month. Have we talked since the draft?
We have not.
Oh my gosh. All right, so we're going to have to redo some of this. All right, we're going to get right into it. Before we get into the draft and drafting Tyler Booker and they're going with the sexy guard pick, let's get into the fact that they actually did something that they kind of teased. We're going to substantive trade, or whatever the word is. The Cowboys go out and do it. They get George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys love them some drama. You wrote a very good column about this in the Fort Worth Star Telegram. You're like, this can work either big or this is going to blow up huge. There's one thing about this that tells me that it can work. Why do you think it can work?
I think the culture in Dallas, what he's walking into.
That's a shoddy word, culture.
Yeah, it is. It sure is. And I think what he's walking into is a lot different than what he left. Now, when I talk to people in the 24 hours after the trade and people even in Pittsburgh that understood what things were looking like behind the scenes for him.
I think Nick froze up on us. All right, so I'm going to give you one quick reason. Hopefully Nick comes back. I'm going to give you my reason why I think this trade ultimately can work. And I bet it's something about what Nick is referencing. And that is culture. To me, it's entirely about the quarterback. George Pickens did not have a stable set of quarterbacks or really a good one to work with in his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had some Oh, Nick, you there?
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I got full Wi-Fi.
Well, clearly they didn't like your opinion.
Clearly, yeah.
Okay, so before you were going into your answer of why you thought it could work, I went into my reason why I thought it could work, and you mentioned culture. To me, I'm piggybacking off that, which is quarterback. George Pickens did really not have a good, stable, stud quarterback throwing to him in his entire time in Pittsburgh, whether it was Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, or Russell Wilson, or Mason Rudolph. It was just guys, washed up, busts, never were's, none of them. This time, he's going to have a guy that locker room reveres. Forget what fans think. Forget what members of the media think. People who play for Dak Prescott respect that man. And that's the one reason why I think Pickens might work in Dallas.
I agree. From a football perspective, this is a home run trade. When you look at everything on the field that he can provide, how he could combine his services with what CeeDee Lamb has provided over the last few years, it is a perfect football marriage. Those are not the questions when you factor in this George Pickens trade. It's, okay, what can we rely upon when it comes to him showing up on time, maturity, professionalism? And those were the biggest things coming out of Pittsburgh is like, okay, he's missing meetings. He's late for flights to get to road games. Which as a former employee, that would have ticked me off if I had to wait 45 minutes because George Pickens slept in this morning, So it's little things like that rubbed not only ownership but the coaching staff the wrong way. And they felt like they were heading towards a crossroads this offseason where he was going to hold out before getting a new contract. They didn't feel comfortable paying him what they anticipated he was going to be asking for. So they move on and they get good value. And you look at it from the Cowboys' perspective, they are going to all indications are they are going to let him play out this contract year, see what that looks like this time next year in the offseason and what that can provide maybe moving forward. But even if he were to go somewhere else and he takes let's say a $20-25 million per year contract, they would get a third or fourth round compensatory pick off of the George Pickens free agency deal. So it's basically getting the pick back that you traded. They traded a third round pick, and it works out in a lot of ways. So is it risk free? No. But I think there are some ways that they can recuperate on the back end if this doesn't work out.
Okay, second round pick out of Georgia. Was he a first round talent who fell because of character concerns?
I think he was a second-round talent, personally. I think, but it was also Georgia's offense. You know, it's kind of tough to figure out what a wide receiver looks like in that system. You look at Ladd McConkey this last year; he was at the top of the second round, but he goes to the Chargers and has an awesome rookie season with them. So it's kind of a tough offense for quarterbacks and receivers to really shine and prove that they're first-round type talents. But I mean, everything that he's played with through the first 3 seasons of his career. I think if you had to do a redraft, I think George Pickens would go in the first round.
Every Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver whom they've said good luck elsewhere has taken a massive fall.
Yeah.
Name them. I mean, just there's like 8 of them.
All of them.
Pardon?
Santonio Holmes, Antonio Brown. I mean, the list goes down. You're right.
Right. Why is he not going to suffer those same fates production-wise?
I think the one big difference with George Pickens compared to those guys is he's 24 years old. Still super young. A lot of those guys were either on the back end of their 20s, early 30s. And, you know, in the NFL, once you hit that 28, 29 threshold, you're on the back nine. And I think with George Pickens, there's still a lot of youth there. There's still a lot of upside there, too. And I think the Cowboys are banking on opening that upside up and see what that looks like for the offense next to CeeDee Lamb.
Okay. There are different levels to when somebody says red flag, there's different hues, right? There's this guy's a criminal and this guy's immature and he's kind of a bad pro.
Yeah.
To me, I drew the comparison between George Pickens and Terrell Owens when Terrell came here. Now, the difference, obviously, dramatically was Terrell was in his 30s, and the Cowboys were trying to squeeze out 1 or 2 more good years from Terrell. But he was a player that both San Francisco and Philadelphia had moved on not because he was a criminal, but because he was just so much drama. He was just so much drama and noise. My impression from watching and following Pickens from afar is that this isn't a criminal. This is just kind of an immature, doesn't get it pro. Correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct. And that's been the big thing out of Pittsburgh is habitually late to meetings, an every week occurrence in Pittsburgh. Missed a couple of or was late to a couple of flights for road games last year. You know, it's just little things like that. And you wonder how.
Nick, that's not a little thing. If you're late for the team flight,
for sure,
you're holding up 100 guys plus.
For sure, and staff and
yes.
Other people as well, trainers. But that's certainly going to have to take an upswing. But you know, maybe this could be a good thing for him. He gets traded to Dallas. You know, some things are said on the way out, and maybe he approaches being a pro a little bit differently. But actions speak louder than what he could possibly say.
Okay, now he's opposite CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb finally has somebody opposite him, really since the first time since Amari Cooper, that maybe we'll take another defender away from him. He'll get some room to breathe now. I'm assuming that the Cowboys haven't necessarily white flagged, Jalen Tolbert or Jonathan Mingo or some of these other guys. But really, this is the first bona fide legit guy opposite CeeDee since Amari Cooper that will give a break to everybody. Dak, the running game, everybody. That said, is George Pickens a 1A, or is he a 2?
I think he is a 2 safely. I think there are parts of his game that are slightly limited when you compare it to CeeDee Lamb. And you throw George Pickens on 32 NFL teams, he'd probably be the one on 15 to 20 of them. But this is a team that has a pretty established one already. I don't believe in 1A type situations. I believe Jamar Chase is the 1, T. Higgins is the 2. I think you look around the league, there's a lot of examples of that. I think that will be the case here. He's just going to be a pretty damn good 2. And when you look at the depth of that receiver room, you have to give the front office credit in this sense because this time last year, they would have just hoped. Let's hope Jonathan Mingo gets better. We'll hope that Jalen Tolbert makes that next year jump. And this time around, they might still be hoping for those guys. Certainly they're hoping for those guys. But they go ahead and address that spot behind CeeDee Lamb. in case that
Okay, we're going to take a quick deviation from the originally scheduled topics that we were going to talk about, because when we scheduled this, I'd forgotten. It had been so long. We talked before, not after the draft. NFL draft has come and gone. I didn't know if you knew this, Nick, or not. Shedeur Sanders wasn't picked until the 5th round. The Cowboys go with the very sexy pick of offensive guard with their first round selection, Tyler Booker, kid from Alabama. They do draft a running back in Jaden Blue. Okay, give me your pluses and minuses from this draft, because I'm like, okay, these all make sense except the injured kid from East Carolina. So the defensive back. Tell me why this is a good one, and tell me why you left, especially as a draft guy, if you left saying, really? That's what you did?
In the first round, I maybe was a little puzzled initially, but almost immediately when you started to hear why they took Tyler Booker, and then you see him come in the next day and talk to the media, and you see his professionalism, how he approaches things. I mean, how he approached his introductory press conference to how he approached getting fitted for boots outside, because, branding, you got to do that first thing once you walk in. But when you see all that, you understand why that pick was made. And when Brian Schottenheimer is preaching culture, this guy makes a lot of sense. And you look at the hole that they have at right guard. Sure, they could have rolled into training camp saying, hey, Brock Hoffman, Robert Jones, TJ Bass, you guys go out there and compete for that right guard spot. We'll see, what happens of it. Or you go get one of the better guards in the class that will be able to cement that spot on day one, rather than, again, hoping that they take that step forward. I like the pick of Tyler Booker. Even before the trade for George Pickens, knowing that they still needed a receiver. But as the draft went on, that was one position we for sure were looking around at, like, okay, it doesn't sound like they're going to make a move here. And then once they got to day 3, they were looking at other positions entirely, and they were understanding that they were going to have to go outside to find their wide receiver too. But looking at the draft class overall, Donovan Ezaraku was a guy that I believe is a first-round type talent. From a pass rushing perspective, he is going to be a machine, especially with guys like Micah Parsons and Dante Fowler on the field. If he can get some isolated matchups in his rookie year, he's going to be pretty damn fun. He is a really good player. He plays to run well. He can drop back and cover as well. He's a versatile defender off the edge. And what he had as far as size concerns going into the draft process, he completely erased at the Senior Bowl, one of the longer pass rushers in the class. And then the pick you mentioned, Mac, third-round corner, Savone Revel out of East Carolina, coming off a torn ACL last October and still working through the rehab process to get cleared in time for training camp. We'll see how that comes about and if he is able to step on the field during training camp. But like you said, that's still a question mark on this team, is what does the health of this cornerback room really look like at the end of the day? Trayvon Diggs, he's definitely not going to be back in time to start training camp. You expect the same out of Revel. And Josh Butler, he's a depth guy as well, who's coming off a torn ACL. He just started doing running activities last week. You would have to think he's still a few months away. So really you only have Deron Bland, Kyer Elam, and then you're getting into the Kalen Carsons and the Troy Prides of the world. Those are some practice squad guys that you don't want to roll out there in week 1. So especially against the Eagles, which we'll get into schedule talk later, that's a big part of it.
Jaden Blue, they finally draft a running back, kid out of Texas. Obviously, we're biased because he's down the road. I guess 3 hours now in Texas now qualifies as down the road.
I'll allow it.
They signed Jarvis Williams in the offseason. Who's the starter?
I think it's going to be Javonte Williams when they roll out for week 1. And
I said Jarvis. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We've all been there. Javonte Williams, I think, will be the starter when they roll out in week 1. But I expect Jaden Blue to have a feature role in this offense. I think they are. I'm hesitant to say committee because that did not work out whatsoever last year.
But consider the legs who are a part of that committee.
Exactly.
Consider the age, wear and tear. So I think it's unfair for anybody to make that comparison because that was unique. Ezekiel Elliott was just totally done. These guys have obviously a lot of tread on the tires.
Yeah, and I think it could work out. There's a lot of explosion in that running back room now, from Jaden Blue's speed to Javonte Williams' receiving ability to even the blocking ability of Phil Maffa, another running back that they got late on day 3 out of Clemson. So they have some options that they'll be able to throw at the wall. We'll see what noodle ends up sticking in training camp.
Marshawn Nealon, what's his future now? It surprised me so much. I mean, they were so high on him, and I know he had an injury last year as a rookie. He showed some real promise of potentially being the guy who would replace DeMarcus Lawrence, who's gone now to Seattle. Now they spent a second-round pick on the exact same position. Is this what is the logic behind that, or is it just that's the best player available? Go get him.
Yeah, I got to give credit to the scouting department because no matter what the roster looks like, sometimes they do take the best player available. And Ezaraku was the best player available left for them at that spot. What was that, at 44? And they went ahead and pulled the trigger there. Now, with Marshawn Nealon, battled injury a lot last year. But before he did injure his knee against Pittsburgh, he had some fun rotational snaps, especially in defending the run game. Yep. He's still going to be asked to do that this year. When you look at the best run defenders in that edge group, you would probably have to put him in the top 2 or 3. He's going to get opportunities, but he's going to have to unlock some of his pass rush to be able to find a cemented role on this team now with Donovan Ezaraku in the picture.
Last question about the draft, then we'll move on to the schedule. Dallas Cowboys selected in the first round last season Tyler Guyton, tackle out of Oklahoma and kind of TCU. Tyler Guyton showed talent as a rookie and a lot of, issues.
Yeah.
They've got Tyler Smith, who has proven to be a dynamite young offensive lineman. They've got Cooper Beebe at center. What does this say, and what is ultimately the future going to look like at left tackle, and specifically for Tyler Guyton? Because they're not going to give up on him, but at least for the start of 2025.
I think if you looked at all 5 offensive line positions, I think you would feel pretty comfortable with 4 of them. And I include Terrence Steele in that. I think this coaching change is really going to benefit his game. I think it's going to give him probably 2 or 3 more years extra than had this coaching staff not flipped around. I think it really benefits what he does best. It could work out great for Terrence Steele. If you're asking me, I think 4 of the 5 you feel pretty good about. It's that one spot at left tackle you're hoping to get more out of. And, when you asked people last year when Tyler Guyton was drafted, they would tell you, hey, this is going to be a raw project that we're going to have to work on, but the upside is incredible. 14 starts in college on the offensive line coming into the NFL. He nearly doubled that in his rookie season. There's going to be growing pains and lumps along the way. I think maybe they expected him to bounce back a little bit better. But the injury, he also dealt with injuries too throughout the year. It was an illness during training camp that kept him off the field in that early instruction period. Then it was a knee injury that kind of toyed with him before the bye week. And there was various things, and penalties were huge for him. He's definitely going to have to take a big second-year jump. We'll see what that looks like as early as this week at OTAs.
Okay, let's get into the NFL schedule. The NFL, sensing the opportunity to make news out of nothing, has made a big to-do out of its annual schedule release. Dallas Cowboys schedule comes out. They will open at defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia on Thursday, September 4th, followed by a return date at home against the division rival New York Giants. A lot of interesting games, a lot of Thursday night games, and of course, the big one on the schedule is the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know if you have done this yet, or Nick, or not. I think I sent it to you. The ticket prices for this game already look like the Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
They do. I don't know if she'll be at the game or not, but this one's going to be, it's so crazy. I'm looking at the schedule on my phone right now. The weird part about this is, one, obviously the traditional schedule of Sunday, Monday is just totally out the window. The Sunday, Monday, it's on NBC, it's on CBS, or it's on ABC. Now it's NBC, Peacock, Fox, ABC, ESPN, CBS, Paramount, Prime Video, blah, 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 blah.
Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah, they have a Netflix game. That's right. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to make a lot out of this schedule. But your first impressions of this schedule in terms of being favorable or less than favorable? Because the bye week, just as a note, the bye week is pretty much in the middle. That's on week 10.
Yeah.
In the second week of November. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with the bye week. The last 2 years, they've had it in that week 6 to week 7 range, and it came super early. And then as the team was kind of battered up late in the season, you saw how much that was really taken out of them. So getting that bye week a little bit later in week 10, that will certainly help them. I also think getting the Eagles in week 1, I think that could be a positive. They have a lot of different defensive pieces that they're going to have to figure out and apply on the field. And also, this is going to be the debut of the Brian Schottenheimer offense. So there's going to be a lot of unknown walking into that game from an opponent scout perspective. So that could be a fun one to open up on Thursday night, seeing the banner rise at Lincoln Financial, and then see what that looks like in that game. If you're looking for some unfavorable parts of the schedule, that week 12 to 17 range, yes, where they play 5 or 6 consecutive playoff opponents from last year, that's going to be
let's do it. I'll do it in order. Philadelphia, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, Chargers.
That's a gauntlet. And then Commanders after that.
And then right? Washington, yeah.
Yeah, that is a gauntlet right through there. So, on one hand, they will be battle tested heading into the playoffs if they qualify. On the other hand, they could be battle torn in the sense that they've gone through a lot of really physical games there towards the end of the season. So that's going to be a fascinating stretch for me. And even if they could go 2-3, 3-2 in that stretch, I think that would be a win at the end of the day. And overall, when we're looking at the records and what you could expect out of that, it's super early to really tell. But kind of looking at the schedule and understanding which teams should be pretty good and which teams should not. A 10-7 year with this schedule should feel anything like a 12-5 year a couple of years ago whenever you were playing some of the lesser opponents.
If you're 10-7, you're probably going to have 5, 6, 7 one-score games. To me, it always comes down to teams like this. Can you get a disproportionate number of those games in the bag? And I'm looking at these games. I'm like, yeah, they can get that one. They can, like I said, injuries are going to play a big part of it. But I see the Jets on there. That's what. There's some automatics in here. You see, like you got to win them. You got to win them, even if they're road games. Like they've got a game at Chicago. That's a game they've got to win. But they've got a game at the Jets. That's a game they've got to win. That they've got a game at Carolina. That's a game they've got to win.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they will. And those are the ones that I see. Like those are tough because they're on the road. But if you're pretty good, then you need to win those games.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. And a development that a few of us saw coming because it has been kicked around, but now it looks like, thanks in part to Jerry Jones, the NFL will be sending its players, some players, to the Olympics. The NFL is currently negotiating with the Players Association to let players participate in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, as the Olympics have added flag football as a medal sport. Now, this is still early on, but it looks like this is going to be done. Jerry Jones wants to do it. Roger Goodell wants to do it. Clearly, the broadcast partners want to do it. One player per team will be allowed to participate. It looks like it's going to happen during training camp, so this player in question will probably miss all of camp. Is there anybody early on that you would say, now this is 2028, so we're still several years away from this happening. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And what the NFL is trying to do is what the NBA did decades ago with the Dream Team, is increase visibility, marketing, ticket sales, all that good stuff for its sport. Who on the Cowboys do you think might be an Olympian?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some fascinating options. And you talk about the Olympics being in Los Angeles and training camp being in Oxnard. There might be some possibilities where, this player or two, however it ends up shaking out, could end up participating in both somehow. But looking at early possibilities, I think Micah Parsons would be obviously a fun one. I mean, you could put him anywhere on either side of the ball and let him hunt. I think that would be a really fun option. We had CeeDee Lamb there in the picture. If you're looking for a red zone threat or a guy that can kind of route up, a poor corner from, Russia, I think that'd probably be your guy. However, I think a wild card here, Kevontae Turpin.
Oh, no. That's a good. I mean, he's going to still have to have the wheels, but that's a good one.
Size is obviously not as important in flag football because you're not getting hit. Speed is the most important. And if you look back this past year, looking at the Pro Bowl game, whenever they're doing the flag football game that they call the Pro Bowl now, they lined him up as a pass rusher, and he went and sacked Russell Wilson. So I sacked Russell Wilson. But there's going to be some opportunities for some interesting players to get a role on these teams.
Real quick on this, I have heard flag football players say, good ones, who obviously have experience in traditional football, but they're a little offended that they think NFL players are just going to walk in and own a flag football field. It's kind of like the 3-on-3 in Olympic basketball. 3-on-3 is not 94 feet 5-on-5. It's a different skill set. Are we going to see? And I don't even know if you know who the players are. Are we going to see guys who are thriving in flag football that most football fans are going to say, who are these guys? I don't even know who these guys are.
Yeah, and I think especially at the quarterback position, that's going to be a really difficult one to translate for an NFL quarterback to go to the Olympic flag game and then bounce right back into the NFL game as soon as the season starts, basically, based on how the schedules kind of line up. I think your quarterback will probably come from that U.S. flag league that has some really talented players. I think it's probably going to end up being a mix of both, though, if you look at the roster at the end of the day.
I'm assuming there's going to be the assumption that the United States is going to walk in and win gold in every game by 88 points. Is there any country? I know Mexico's. I know Japan. Is there any other country out there? I mean, flag is a different game.
Yeah,
Canada was the other one.
Canada does well. England does well. Mexico, you mentioned. But I mean, this is the U.S.'s sport to lose. There's a reason it's starting in Los Angeles.
Can you imagine if they don't win it?
Imagine if they don't medal. Like if Iran comes in and just smokes Jalen Ramsey.
Russia just smokes us. Okay, you said the magic word, Micah Parsons. We are contractually bound when we do these videos to endlessly talk about contracts and extensions that are absolutely and utterly inevitable. We did it with Dak Prescott. Now we're going to do it with Micah Parsons. Oh, my God, I hate this subject. Is this okay? I think the last time we talked about this, Nick, you were like, "Oh, I think this might get done earlier than you think."
Yeah.
Okay. Are you still stand by that?
Still feel the same way. I think it gets done before camp. And I also feel the same way, Mac. I am so over these talks. I am so ready for the last.
We're done. They always get done. It's just they always get done in every team. These guys are. I don't know if you saw. Did you see what Trey Hendrickson said about the Bengals?
Yes.
Right? He's like, I'm going to sit out a year because I don't like the contract there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You were throwing away. I mean, I understand you're mad, but what are you doing? You're not going to win. They didn't trade you.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
And then your value decreases massively if you take a year off.
Totally. I'm like, I get it, but dude, you better get the money now because you ain't going to make that kind of money the rest of your life. Yeah. Well, maybe he goes into real estate or politics. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about. The NFL currently is contemplating significant rule changes. It's another owners meeting. That's all these guys do is meet and, at resorts and talk about themselves. Big rule changes. This has been on the table for years, banning the tush push, because apparently the only team that's any good at it are the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know why another team can't do this as well as Philadelphia. It's like Nick Sirianni has some secret sauce about it with Jalen, although Jalen Hurts is good at it. Yeah. Are we getting rid of the tush push?
From what I understand, I think there's an amended version of what the tush push could look like that could be coming its way.
So it's is it like the deep thigh push?
Yeah, it's like the woke tush push. I don't know. That's what they're calling it. I don't have a thought one way or the other. I honestly, truthfully, if we can't stop it, then that tough beans. That's my personal belief. If it was me voting, I wouldn't vote to ban it. I think it is a football play at the end of the day. It's physicality at the line of scrimmage. I honestly think it takes a lot of its rugby roots in that play. I like the play. Yep. But it sounds like there's a lot of league support to ban it or amend it in some way moving forward.
So Jerry Jones, years and years ago, they had added the spike. The quarterback could spike it, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it's not a play. It's just to kill the clock and it takes up a down, right? And Jerry Jones was kind of on the outside of it. And he said something that kind of gave me a clear, and this was 20 plus years ago, that gave me a clear view of how he saw the NFL as a product, as an entertainment product. And his issue with the spike of the ball, he's like, it's not a play. It's really not a play. And that's what we're selling to fans, are plays. Now it's strategy, but nothing's going to happen. There's no highlight. And what Jerry's view is, and I'm sort of seeing through his eyes, we want to create opportunities for highlights, right? For fans to get up and get excited and buy the NFL. You're not buying a spike. And to me, I put the tush push, even if those are rugby roots, I put the tush push in somewhat of the spike category. It's a play. But Nick, the problem I have with it is that it is virtually an unstoppable play.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so strategically, normally we see these instances is that evolution will figure out a way to counter whatever that person did, right? This person's going to go right. We're going to come up. We're going to drop 2 safeties deep. We're going to swing this guy out, blah, blah, blah. That's one of the beauties of football. I have yet to talk to anybody on the front 7 defensively who has said, we can stop this.
Yeah.
And if you cannot stop it, then I get the argument that says, we can't do this.
Yeah, because the only way to really beat it is getting leverage under the center. And part of the tush push is for the center to immediately lay down and go at the knees of the opposing defensive tackle. And so Chris Jones this past season in the Super Bowl tried to stop the tush push, and he kind of hurt his back a little bit because he was trying to get low and he mashed his head in. So, in some ways there's a lot of truth to that. But there are a lot of teams that try to replicate it and do not have the same success. That's why I view it more as a play, but just more as a play that Philadelphia is best at. And
what is it, Nick, that they why does it, because we've seen other teams, you mentioned it, other teams have tried it. Yeah. What is it about? Or is it Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts is an incredibly strong man.
Jalen Hurts is probably the strongest quarterback ball carrier in the league. You add that with when the inception of this play started with Kelsey kind of ushering in the way for Cam Jurgens to kind of take over at that center spot. I think they just do it perfectly with those 2 guys.
Okay, last thing we're going to talk about before we wrap this up. The NFL is contemplating reseeding the playoffs based on regular season records, not division. Normally it had gone by if you win the Central, even if you're 6-10, that means you're the 3 seed, or I guess whatever seed it was. And now they're going to go potentially to the idea of, if we're going by records, you're still division champion, you're in the playoffs. But the question I had, I may have missed it. If they're basing the seeding on regular season records, does the team that wins the division with the lesser record get the home game?
Yeah, that would not be the case, I guess, in the situation. Which it effectively you're running into NBA playoff scenarios, and where divisions don't matter anymore. Like, when the Miami Heat win the Southeast Division this past year, they're still the 8 seed. They're not the 4 seed. So it's there used to be a day and age in the NBA if you won your division, you no matter what get home court advantage in the first round. Now that doesn't matter anymore. The only reason divisions matter anymore in the NBA are that you play those teams 4 times a year. And maybe that's what we're heading towards in the NFL, where it's the only reason the divisions matter is you're playing those guys twice a year. So, I think winning your division should mean something, and you should get a home playoff game in the first round. The NFC North was great last year. Win your damn division. That's me.
Well, do you think it's going to happen? You've said some amended version of the tush push is probably going to pass. Do you think the reseeding will pass?
I don't see this one passing. That's just my theory. No real reporting behind that. I just don't see that passing.
All right. Nick, I always enjoy talking football with you, and specifically, and unfortunately, the Dallas Cowboys. Enjoy OTAs for all of your Cowboys coverage needs, as well as Dallas Stars playoff coverage by my man Nick right there. Be sure to check us out on StarTelegram.com. Thank you very much. We will see you next time.